Hey everyone, welcome back. We're doing a deep dive today into something that I think a lot of people are talking about and makes you think about public image, especially for celebrities, and how quickly things can change in the digital age. It's Ellen DeGeneres' attempted comeback.
Yeah.
And why it's been such a wild ride.
Yeah. It is fascinating to see, how a persona that someone so carefully crafted over years and years can unravel so quickly.
Right.
When something like this happens.
Yeah. And our main source today is this YouTube video essay. And it's by Sunny V2.
Okay.
And it's called Ellen Just Tried to Make a Comeback. It's Not Going Well. And I thought it was really interesting. It lays everything out chronologically.
Yeah.
And I think for those who maybe need a refresher, it all started with this tweet.
Yeah, back in March 2020.
Yeah, 2020.
Someone on Twitter basically asked for any insane stories about Ellen being mean.
Yeah, insane stories about Ellen being mean. And I think we all know what happened. The internet delivered. And it wasn't just like the volume of stories, but it was the specificity of some of the details.
Right, and that they seem to resonate with so many people.
Right.
These weren't like accusations of major scandals or anything,
Right.
but more like these smaller, everyday instances of just perceived unkindness that really stood out to people.
Right, like the waitress who said she almost got fired because Ellen complained to the owner about her chipped nail polish.
Exactly.
Yeah, which, like, come on.
That story, along with so many others, just went super viral.
Yeah.
And it really started to chip away, pun intended, I guess,
Yeah.
at that be kind image that she had.
Totally. And it was like this cognitive dissonance for people who've been watching her show for years.
Right.
And like bought into this persona of like,
Exactly.
the dancing and the fun and the kindness.
Does it make people wonder, is this all an act?
And then there was also that story from a former Warner Bros. Employee who claimed they got fired for just like holding the elevator for Ellen and her entourage.
Oh, right.
Like just like a normal courtesy you would do for anyone.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, whether these stories are like completely accurate or slightly embellished,
Yeah.
they definitely tapped into this growing suspicion that maybe there was a disconnect between Ellen's public and private personas.
Right. And it wasn't just like random people on Twitter.
Yeah.
It was also her former employees and even audience members who came forward with more stories
Right.
and painted a picture of her being really demanding and dismissive.
Right, like not the person that we saw on the show.
And that's when things really took a turn, because it wasn't just like anonymous accounts anymore. It was people who had actually worked with her,
Yeah.
interacted with her behind the scenes.
Yeah, one former producer even called her a toxic, phony, hypocrite liar,
Wow.
which are some pretty strong words.
Yeah, it really shows how deeply this controversy affected the people who felt like they had seen a very different side of her.
Right. And then the accusations gained even more traction when BuzzFeed got involved and published this like full-on investigative piece with interviews from like 11 former employees.
Oh, wow.
So this wasn't just like internet chatter anymore.
Right, it was a legitimate news outlet giving a platform to these accusations.
Right. And they were describing like a pretty toxic work environment.
Yeah, what were they saying?
People being allegedly fired for taking medical leave or bereavement days.
Oh, wow.
Just like a culture of fear and intimidation.
Yeah.
Which is like so different from the image of like the fun, lighthearted atmosphere
Totally.
that we saw on the show.
The BuzzFeed investigation was a turning point because it took the accusations from just gossip to serious allegations that needed a response.
Yeah.
And she did respond.
She did.
She issued a statement
Yeah.
acknowledging that there were issues, taking responsibility, and promising to do better. She even took a 2-month break from the show.
Yeah, like to really show that she was serious.
Yeah.
But even her apology was met with mixed reactions. Some people thought it was sincere, and others saw it as damage control.
Yeah, and one former producer even said it was a lie.
A total lie.
Yeah. Which just shows how complex public apologies can be.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell if someone is being sincere.
Right. And everyone brings their own baggage and interpretations to the table.
Exactly.
So it's like, can an apology ever really repair a damaged reputation, especially online?
Yeah.
Where everything's amplified and scrutinized.
Especially these days, yeah.
So when she returned for a new season, she promised to make it the best one yet and, reiterated her commitment to change.
Okay.
But the question was, would the audience buy it? Would they give her a second chance?
Right. And I guess that's what we're going to find out
Exactly.
as we go through this story.
As we dive in a little deeper.
Yeah.
So
So what happened when she came back?
let's see.
Yeah, so it looks like maybe not everyone was ready to just forgive and forget.
Yeah, the New York Times actually reported like a big drop in viewership after the apology, like a significant drop. So it seemed like the damage was done.
Wow.
And people just weren't ready to move on.
So even with her trying to come back and make amends and make changes,
Right.
it sounds like the show just couldn't quite recover.
Yeah. And then just like 6 months later, Ellen announced that the show was ending
Oh, wow.
after 19 seasons.
So it was a pretty long run.
Yeah, it's a very long run.
Yeah.
And she officially said that she was looking for new challenges.
Okay.
But a lot of people were speculating that the controversy had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say it definitely played a role.
Right.
But there were probably other factors too,
Right.
Maybe the ratings being down the format, feeling stale.
Right.
And, maybe even Ellen herself just wasn't feeling it anymore.
Yeah, she did say in an interview that she was destroyed by the expose
Oh, wow.
and all the negativity. And she even talked about encountering this like culture of mean people,
Interesting.
which is just like, wow.
That's really sad.
That's so interesting that she felt that way.
Yeah.
Like she was surprised by it.
Right.
It makes you think how jarring it must be to have your entire persona just like
Yeah.
come under such intense scrutiny.
And be questioned.
Yeah.
Is this who you really are?
Right. Like how much of this was genuine and how much was for show?
Yeah.
It's a question that comes up a lot when these things happen with celebrities.
Right.
Can we ever really know the real person behind the public image?
Yeah. And so after stepping away from the talk show, Ellen did this documentary about gorillas saving the gorillas.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
But it kind of came and went.
It didn't make a big splash.
Yeah, it seems like it got a little lost.
Yeah, maybe with all the controversy and everything going on.
Yeah.
It just kind of flew under the radar.
Right. And that brings us to her attempted comeback,
Okay.
which is a Netflix stand-up special called Relatable.
Relatable.
Yeah. And she actually addresses the controversy head on.
Yeah, there's this part where she's like walking up a staircase and each step is labeled with a negative headline about her.
Oh, wow.
So she's really leaning into it.
Yeah, that's a bold move.
Yeah.
Like acknowledging the elephant in the room.
Right.
Trying to control the narrative through humor.
Yeah, and it's like she's saying, look, I know you've heard all these things about me,
Right.
but let's just talk about it.
Yeah. So was it funny?
I mean, it depends who you ask.
Okay, so the reception was mixed.
Yeah, very mixed. Some reviewers were just brutal,
Really?
calling it unfunny, disingenuous, and ironically unrelatable.
Oh, the irony.
Right, and a lot of the criticism was focused on how she was joking about the controversy.
Right.
Like she was trying to laugh it off without really acknowledging the harm she might have caused.
Okay.
But then other reviewers thought it was great. They praised her unapologetic and honest approach.
Interesting.
Right?
It's funny how even the word unapologetic can be interpreted in such different ways.
Yeah, totally.
Like some people see it as genuine and others see it as manipulative.
Right, and this divide was super obvious in the online ratings.
Yeah.
Like, it was like a 50-50 split
Wow.
between 1 star and 5 stars.
So literally people either loved it or hated it.
Yeah, it's like a visual representation of how divided everyone still is about her.
Yeah, it's like a case study in how we as a society deal with these celebrity scandals and attempts at redemption.
Right.
Do we demand an apology? Do we expect them to grovel?
Right.
Or is it enough for them to just acknowledge their mistakes and move on?
Right, and then it gets even more complicated when you think about separating the art from the artist.
Yeah.
Like, can you enjoy Ellen's stand-up even if you don't agree with her personal conduct?
Right. It's a tough question.
Yeah.
It's a tough question.
Like, it's something that people are really struggling with.
Especially these days.
Yeah, with like cancel culture and everything.
Yeah, where do we draw the line?
Right.
Is it possible to separate the work from the person who created it?
Right, or are they like forever linked? I don't know if there's an easy answer.
No, I think it's up to each individual to decide
Right.
based on their own values.
Right, and I think it's hard because like apologies, even if you're not perfect, can be a step in the right direction.
Right? Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
But we also have to be open to the possibility that people can change and grow.
Totally, and I think in Ellen's case,
Yeah.
it's particularly interesting because her whole comedic persona was so tied to this image of kindness.
Right.
So when these allegations of unkindness came out, it felt like a betrayal to a lot of people.
Right. Like it really challenged their perception of who she was and what she represented.
Yeah, and it's like she kind of became a victim of her own success.
Right. The higher you build someone up, the
Yeah.
harder they fall.
And the court of public opinion can be brutal.
Oh, yeah, especially with social media.
It's like it's just amplified.
It creates this echo chamber where opinions get so strong and it's hard to have a nuanced conversation.
Totally.
Yeah.
And everyone has an opinion, and they want to share it.
Yeah, everyone feels entitled to weigh in.
Right, so it's no wonder that celebrities have a hard time managing their image.
Yeah, it's a tough line to walk.
Yeah.
And so I guess the question is, where does this leave Ellen?
Yeah.
Is her comeback a success, or is she going to be a controversial figure from now on?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah, it's still early.
She obviously still has a lot of fans,
She does.
but she definitely lost the trust of a lot of people.
Right.
So I think her future success really depends on what she does from here on out.
Yeah, on and off stage.
Right. It's a reminder that public image is so fragile,
It is.
and reputations can change really quickly.
Yeah, but it's also a good reminder that we're all human.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes
And we should be able to grow from them.
and hopefully learn and change.
Right.
So, yeah, Ellen's story's far from over.
No, it'll be interesting to see what happens next.
Yeah, how her career evolves and how she navigates all of this.
Right.
But it's definitely sparked a conversation. Yeah.
About accountability, forgiveness, and what it means to be famous these days.
Yeah, for sure. And at the end of the day, it's not just about Ellen.
Right.
It's about how we engage with celebrities, how we respond when they mess up, and what redemption looks like.
Yeah, it's a good thing to think about.
Yeah, and hopefully this deep dive has given you some things to think about
Exactly.
as you navigate the world of social media. And, you know,
It's a complex world.
it is a complex world.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive into something that'll hopefully make you think.